My daughter-in-law said, "Mom, you don't need to come," so I took my house back quietly. I was folding a towel when the phone rang, a white towel from the guest bathroom, the one with the little embroidery on the edge that my mother had given me 30 years ago. I remember thinking I should throw that towel away because the threads were pulling loose, but I kept folding it. I kept folding it, and then I picked up the phone, and it was my daughter-in-law. Her name is Amanda. She was calling to tell me about the birthday party for my grandson, for Owen. He was turning 7. And I knew about the party, of course, because I had already bought the presents. A Lego set, a blue bike helmet, a stuffed dinosaur that made a roaring sound when you squeezed its belly. I had wrapped them all myself with the good paper, the thick paper with the little gold stars. Amanda said, "Mom, you don't need to come." Just like that. "Mom, you don't need to come." She said it in that voice she uses when she is trying to sound kind, but really she is trying to sound final. Like a door closing, but she wants you to think the door is just resting against the frame. I stopped folding the towel. I held the phone against my ear and I could hear my grandson in the background. Owen. He was laughing at something, or screaming. It was hard to tell. Children make those sounds that could be either. And Amanda said, "We are keeping it small this year, just family." And I said, "I am family." And there was a pause, a long pause. The kind of pause where you can hear someone breathing on the other end, and you know they are deciding what to say next. They are choosing their words like they are choosing weapons. Amanda said, "Mom, you know what I mean. Just us. Just me and Brian and the kids." And I said, "Brian is my son. Those kids are my grandchildren. I am the grandmother." And she said, "I know, Mom, I know, but we need space. We need to do our own thing this year." And I wanted to say that I had driven Owen to preschool every Tuesday and Thursday for 2 years. I had sat in the pickup line for 40 minutes each time because Amanda did not want to wait. I had changed diapers in the back of my car in the grocery store parking lot because Amanda was too tired. I had paid for the gymnastics classes and the swim lessons and the summer camp that cost $800. I had given them the down payment for the minivan. I had given them furniture from my own house when they said they could not afford new stuff. I had been there for everything, every single thing. And now she was telling me I did not need to come to a birthday party for a 7-year-old boy who still called me Nana. But I did not say any of that. I just said, "Okay, sweetheart." I said, "Okay." And I hung up the phone, and I finished folding the towel. I put it in the linen closet. I closed the closet door. And then I stood there, in the hallway of my own house, the house I had lived in for 38 years. The house where I raised Brian and his sister Laura. The house where my husband Robert died in the downstairs bedroom 4 years ago. The house where I sat alone most nights now, with the television on low so I could pretend someone else was in the room with me. This did not come out of nowhere. That is what I want you to understand. The phone call about the birthday party, that was not the beginning. That was just the moment I finally stopped pretending. The cracks had been there for years, small ones at first, so small you could mistake them for dust on the floor. Amanda forgetting to invite me to Owen's school play. Amanda saying they already had plans for Thanksgiving, but maybe we could do something the weekend after. Amanda changing the locks on their house and saying it was because a neighbor had been robbed, but then not giving me a key. Little things, little cuts, the kind that do not bleed much, but they never stop bleeding either. And my son Brian, my only son, he would call me sometimes, on his way home from work, in the car. He would call and we would talk about nothing. The weather, the price of gas, a funny thing Owen said. But he never pushed back against Amanda, never said Mom should come to the party, never said Mom we miss you, never said anything that would make Amanda angry. He was afraid of her. I knew that. I had known it since the day they got married 9 years ago. She walked down the aisle like she was already queen of something. And Brian stood at the altar with that look on his face, that look that said, "Please love me. Please don't leave me. Please let this be enough." It broke my heart to see it, but I told myself he was happy. I told myself this was what love looked like sometimes, one person holding all the keys. After the phone call, I went to the kitchen. I made a pot of coffee, even though it was 3 in the afternoon and I knew it would keep me awake. I poured a cup and I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Brian used to do his homework, the same table where Robert would read the newspaper and complain about the crossword puzzles, the same table where I had served 1,000 meals to people I loved. Now it was just me, and the coffee, and the quiet. I started thinking about the money, not because I am greedy, because I am old and I know what comes next. Robert left me the house. He left me his pension. He left me a life insurance policy that was not huge, but it was enough. Enough to live on if I was careful. Enough to help the kids when they needed it. And they always needed it. Brian and Laura both. They needed money for this and money for that. A new roof, a broken water heater, a medical bill, a credit card payment. I gave and I gave and I gave. Because that is what mothers do. We give until our hands are empty, and then we find something else to give. Laura called me 2 days after the birthday party conversation. She is my daughter. She lives 3 hours away in a town with a main street and a diner and nothing else. She called and she said, "Mom, I heard about the party." And I said, "What about the party?" And she said, "Amanda told me she uninvited you." I said she did not uninvite me. She just said I did not need to come. Laura laughed, that hard laugh she has, the one she uses when she is angry but she does not want to cry. "Mom," she said, "that is the same thing. That is exactly the same thing." Laura has always seen things clearly, even when she was a little girl. She would look at me and say, "Mom, why are you sad?" She would look at her father and say, "Dad, why are you lying?" She saw things the rest of us pretended not to see, and she saw Amanda from the very beginning. She saw the way Amanda looked at our family, like we were a wallet with legs, like we were a free babysitting service with a kitchen and a couch, like we were useful for now, but not forever. I told Laura not to make a big deal out of it. I told her I would see Owen another time. I told her family was complicated and we all had to be patient. But even as I said those words, I did not believe them. I was saying them because that is what I always did. I smoothed things over. I made peace. I swallowed the hurt and called it grace. I had been doing it for 68 years, since I was a little girl in a house where my mother swallowed her own hurt every single day. I learned it from her. She learned it from hers. Women swallowing hurt like medicine. Bitter going down, but you smile anyway. The birthday party came and went. I stayed home. I watched a movie I did not care about. I ate a sandwich I did not taste. I looked at my phone every 20 minutes to see if anyone had sent a picture of Owen with his cake. No one did. Not Brian, not Amanda, not even Laura, because she had not been invited either. Amanda kept it small, just her family, just the people she decided were real family. Everyone else was on the outside looking in. The next week, I got a piece of mail that changed everything. It was a thick envelope from a law firm, a name I did not recognize, Peterson and Associates. I opened it standing in my kitchen by the window where the afternoon light comes in and makes everything look golden. Inside was a letter, not a long letter, just a few paragraphs. But those paragraphs were the sharpest thing I have ever read. The letter said that Amanda and Brian were requesting a formal agreement regarding the property, my house. They were requesting that I transfer ownership of the house to a trust that they would control. The letter said it was for estate planning purposes. It said it would help avoid probate when I passed away. It said it was a common financial strategy for families who wanted to protect their assets. The letter was polite, professional, but I knew what it was. It was a knife wrapped in a napkin. I read the letter 3 times. Then I sat down on the kitchen floor. Right there on the tile. I sat down and I put my back against the cabinet and I let the letter fall out of my hands. I sat there for a long time, long enough for the afternoon light to turn into evening light, long enough for the kitchen to get cold. I kept thinking about the birthday party. Mom, you don't need to come. And now this request, this demand dressed up as a suggestion. They wanted my house. They wanted the place where I slept and ate and remembered my dead husband. They wanted to take it from me while I was still alive, while I could still feel it happen. I called Brian. I did not plan what to say. I just dialed his number and he answered on the 3rd ring. He said, "Hey Mom, what's up?" Like nothing was wrong. like the letter did not exist. And I said, "Brian, I got something in the mail today. A letter from a law firm." And there was that pause again. That same pause from the phone call about the party. The pause where someone is deciding whether to tell the truth or tell a lie. He said, "Oh, that's nothing, Mom. That's just something Amanda's dad suggested. It's just paperwork. It doesn't mean anything." I said, "It means you want my house." He said, "No, Mom, it doesn't mean that. It means we want to make sure everything is taken care of. For the kids, for Owen and Lily. You want them to have security, don't you? You want them to be okay after you're gone." I said, "I am not gone yet, Brian. I am standing in my kitchen. I am holding the phone. I am still here."
And he said, "I know, Mom, I know. That's why we're doing this now, while you can still be part of the process, while you can still sign things. Sign things. That is what he said. While you can still sign things. As if my only remaining purpose was to put my name on a piece of paper that would hand everything over to them. As if my hands were just tools for transferring wealth from one generation to the next. As if I did not have dreams of my own, plans of my own, a life of my own that was not just waiting to die so my children to pick when I had. I told Brian I would think about it. I told him I needed to talk to Laura first. And he said, "Okay, Mom, take your time." But there was something in his voice, something tight, something impatient. He did not want me to take my time. He wanted me to sign. He wanted me to agree. He wanted me to be the good mother who gives and gives until there is nothing left to give. I called Laura that night. I told her about the letter. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Mom, I have to tell you something." And I knew from her voice that something bad was coming, something worse than the letter. She said Amanda has been talking to Dad's brother, to Uncle Carl. She said Amanda and Carl have been meeting, at coffee shops, at Carl's office. She said Carl told her that the house should have gone to Brian anyway, that Robert would have wanted it that way, that I was just holding on to something that did not really belong to me.
I felt my chest get tight. Carl was Robert's brother. He was the executor of Robert's will. He was the one who helped Robert set everything up before he died. And now he was meeting with Amanda, behind my back, talking about my house, about what Robert would have wanted. As if Robert had not spent 38 years building that house with me. As if Robert had not painted every room, and fixed every leak, and mowed every blade of grass with his own hands. As if Robert had not looked at me across the dinner table 1,000 times and said, "This is our home. Our home. Not his, not Brian's. Ours." Laura said, "Mom, you need to get a lawyer." She said, "You need to protect yourself because no one else is going to do it." And I knew she was right. But I could not move. I could not think. I just sat there on my kitchen floor, with the phone pressed against my ear, and the darkness pressing against the windows. I had spent my whole life taking care of other people, changing diapers, packing lunches, driving carpools, making appointments, paying bills, wiping tears, holding hands, staying quiet, swallowing hurt. And now the people I had taken care of were circling around me like vultures, waiting for me to fall so they could pick at what was left. The next morning, I did something I never thought I would do. I went to see a lawyer. Her name was Margaret. She was a woman about my age, with gray hair and glasses, and an office that smelled like old books. I sat across from her, and I told her everything. The birthday party, the letter, the meetings with Carl, the years of giving money and time and love, the way Amanda had slowly pushed me out of my own family, the way Brian had let her do it, the way I had let them both do it, because I did not want to cause trouble, because I wanted to be the good mother, because I was afraid that if I said no, they would leave me alone, and I would have nothing. No grandchildren, no son, no family, nothing. Margaret listened. She took notes. She did not interrupt. When I finished, she took off her glasses, and she looked at me, and she said something I will never forget. She said, "They are counting on you being too nice to fight back. They are counting on you being too old, too tired, too lonely. They are counting on you giving them what they want because you are afraid of losing them. But here is the truth. You have already lost them. They are not your family anymore. They are people who want your house. And the only way to keep your house is to become someone they do not expect you to be." I went home that afternoon and I sat in my bedroom. Robert's side of the bed was still made the way he left it. The same pillow, the same blanket. I had not washed his sheets in 4 years. I know that sounds strange. I know it sounds like something a person who cannot let go would do. But I could not wash away the last place his body had been. I could not erase the dent in the pillow. So I left it.
I left it like a shrine, like a promise, like a way of saying he was still here even when he was not. I thought about what Margaret said. They are not your family anymore. That sentence cut through me like a blade, but it was also the truest thing anyone had ever said to me. Brian had not called me on my birthday last year. He had sent a text. "Happy birthday, Mom." That was all. No phone call, no card, no visit. Amanda had posted a photo of Owen on Instagram with a cake that said, "Happy birthday to the best grandma in the world." But the cake was for her own mother, her mother who lived in Florida, her mother who saw Owen twice a year, her mother who did not change diapers or drive carpools or pay for summer camp. That was the best grandma, not me, the one who showed up for the photo, the one who looked good on social media. That was who mattered. I decided I was not going to sign the letter. I decided I was not going to give them my house. But I also decided I was not going to tell them that. Not yet. I was going to be quiet. I was going to be patient. I was going to do what they did to me. I was going to let them think everything was fine while I got my own affairs in order. That is the thing about being old. People forget that you have survived things. They forget that you have buried a husband and watched your parents die and held your best friend's hand while she took her last breath. They forget that you know what loss feels like. They forget that you have been knocked down before and you got back up. They see the gray hair and the slow walk and the way you need reading glasses now. They see a target. They do not see a fighter. I started meeting with Margaret every week. We worked on a plan, a quiet plan. The house was in my name only. Robert had made sure of that before he died. He said, "I want you to have this house free and clear. No strings, no complications." He trusted me. He loved me. And now I was going to honor that trust. I was going to protect what he left me, even if it meant losing the people I thought loved me. The first thing I did was change my will. I took Brian out of it. I left everything to Laura. Every stick of furniture, every dollar in the bank, the house, all of it. Laura was the one who called me every Sunday. Laura was the one who drove 3 hours to take me to my doctor's appointments. Laura was the one who held my hand when I cried about Robert. Laura never asked for anything. She just showed up. She just loved me. And that is the difference between a child who wants a mother and a child who wants an inheritance. The second thing I did was stop giving them money. Brian called one day and said they needed help with Owen's dental bills. Braces, expensive ones. He said, "Mom, can you help us out just this once?" And I said, "I am sorry, sweetheart, but I cannot." There was a long silence. Then he said, "What do you mean you cannot?" I said, "I mean, I cannot. My money is for my expenses." "I have to be careful." He said, "You have never said no before." I said, "I am saying no now." He hung up. He did not say goodbye. He did not say, "I love you." He just hung up. And I sat there with the phone in my hand and I felt something break. But it was not my heart breaking this time. It was something else, something that needed to break. Amanda called the next day. She was angry. I could hear it in her voice, even though she tried to hide it. She said, "Mom, Brian told me you said no about the braces." I said, "That is correct." She said, "But Owen needs them. The orthodontist said he needs them." I said, "Then you and Brian will have to figure out how to pay for them." She said, "We cannot afford it." I said, "Then you should not have bought the new car last month, the one you posted on Facebook, the one with the leather seats and the sunroof." She did not say anything for a few seconds. Then she said, "That was a gift from my parents." I said, "I do not care where it came from. You have a new car. I have an old car. You have a new couch. I have a couch that is 20 years old. You go on vacation every summer. I have not been on a vacation in 12 years. So do not tell me you cannot afford braces. Tell me you do not want to pay for them yourself. Tell me you would rather take my money than your own. At least be honest." Amanda started crying, or pretending to cry. It was hard to tell. She said, "I cannot believe you are doing this, after everything we have done for you, everything we have given you."
I said, "What have you given me, Amanda? Tell me one thing you have given me that was not wrapped in an expectation." She hung up too, just like Brian. The phone went dead in my hand, and I sat in my quiet house, and I realized I was not sad. I was not angry. I was something else, something I had never felt before. I was free. But freedom is lonely. That is what no one tells you. Freedom means empty rooms. Freedom means silent phones. Freedom means holidays where you eat alone because your son decided to spend Christmas with his wife's family and your daughter lives too far away to drive in the snow. Freedom means watching your grandchildren grow up in photographs someone else posts online. Freedom means knowing that the people who were supposed to love you forever have chosen something else, something easier, something that does not require them to look at you and see what they have done. The months passed. Spring turned into summer. Summer turned into fall. I did not hear from Brian, not once. He did not call on Mother's Day. He did not call on my birthday. He did not call to tell me Owen lost a tooth or Lily learned to ride a bike. I heard nothing. Laura would update me when she could. She said Brian looked tired. He looked sad. He looked like someone carrying something heavy. But he did not reach out. He did not apologize. He did not say, "I am sorry, Mom, I was wrong." He just disappeared, like I was already dead.
Like I had already signed the papers and handed over the keys and stopped breathing. Then one day in October, I got a letter from Carl, Robert's brother, my brother-in-law for 40 years. The letter was formal, typed, signed at the bottom. It said that Carl believed I was not of sound mind, that he had concerns about my cognitive health, that he was requesting a guardianship hearing, that he wanted the court to appoint someone to manage my affairs, to manage me, because I was old, because I had changed my will, because I had stopped giving money to my son, because I had finally said no. I read the letter twice. Then I called Margaret. She told me not to panic. She told me this was a common tactic, a way to scare an older person into compliance. She said Carl had no evidence, no doctor's report, no nothing. He was just trying to intimidate me. But I knew it was more than that. Carl was not acting alone. Amanda was behind this. Amanda and her father, and maybe even Brian. They were trying to take away my voice, my choice, my ability to say no. They were trying to make me a child again, a child who needed someone else to hold the pen, a child who could not be trusted with her own life. The guardianship hearing was set for December, a month before Christmas. I spent those weeks gathering evidence, bank statements, medical records, letters from my doctor saying I was perfectly capable of making my own decisions, letters from my friends saying I was sharp and aware and independent. Laura flew in for the hearing. She sat next to me in the courtroom. She held my hand. She did not let go. Carl brought a lawyer, a young man in an expensive suit, who looked at me like I was a bug under a microscope. He asked me questions about my memory, about my finances, about my daily routine. He tried to make me seem confused, tried to make me seem fragile, but I answered every question, clearly, calmly. I told the judge about my morning walk, about the books I read, about the dinner I had made the night before, about the phone call I had with Laura every Sunday, about the volunteer work I did at the church thrift store, about the quilting group I went to on Tuesdays. I showed the judge that I was alive, that I was present, that I was not a problem to be solved or an asset to be managed. The judge ruled in my favor. She said there was no evidence of incapacity. She said the petition was without merit. She said Carl would have to pay my legal fees. I watched Carl's face as she said those words. He looked stunned. He looked like someone who had been so sure of his own rightness that he never considered the possibility of being wrong. He looked like a man who had just realized he had been played. By Amanda, by his own greed, by the assumption that an old woman would just fold. After the hearing, I walked out of the courthouse into the cold December air. Laura was beside me. She was crying, happy tears. She said, "Mom, you were amazing." And I wanted to feel amazing. I wanted to feel victorious, but all I felt was tired. So tired. The kind of tired that lives in your bones.
the kind of tired that comes from fighting against people you used to love with your whole heart. That night, I went home to my empty house. I made tea. I sat in Robert's chair, the one by the window, the one where he used to sit and watch the birds at the feeder. I looked out at the backyard, the maple tree he planted when Brian was born, the rose bushes he tended every spring, the fence he built with his own hands after a storm knocked down the old one. This was my house, my life, my memory. And I had kept it. But keeping it had cost me my son. It had cost me my grandchildren. It had cost me the future I thought I would have. The one where Owen and Lily came over for cookies and hot chocolate. The one where they sat on my lap and let me read them stories. The one where I was not just a grandmother, but their grandmother. The one they loved. The one they remembered. Laura came to visit for Christmas. Just her. No husband, no children. She had divorced 2 years ago and had not remarried. We made a small turkey. We watched old movies. We talked about Robert. We laughed about the time he tried to fix the garbage disposal and flooded the kitchen. We cried a little. Not too much, just enough to feel something. It was not the Christmas I had imagined, but it was real. It was honest. It was ours. On New Year's Eve, I got a text from Brian. A single line. "Happy New Year, Mom."
I stared at the words for a long time. I wanted to respond. I wanted to say, "Come over. I want to see you. I want to hug my son." But I did not, because I knew that text was not an olive branch. It was a test, a way to see if I was still soft, still willing to pretend that nothing had happened, still willing to open the door and let them walk back in and take what they wanted. I put my phone down. I poured a glass of wine. I watched the ball drop on television by myself. And when the clock struck midnight, I did not make a wish. I just sat there in the dark, alone, in the house I had fought for, in the house I had kept, in the house that now felt less like a home and more like a monument to everything I had lost. The winter turned into spring. Spring turned into summer. I turned 70 years old. Laura threw me a small party at her house. She invited a few of my friends, the ones who had stuck around, the ones who had seen the whole thing happen and did not look away. We ate cake. We drank champagne. We sat on Laura's porch and watched the sun go down. It was nice. It was enough. But I kept looking at my phone, waiting for a call that never came, waiting for a voice that had gone silent, waiting for my son to remember that I was his mother, that I had carried him for 9 months, that I had held him when he cried, that I had stayed up all night when he had the flu, that I had taught him how to ride a bike, that I had driven him to college and cried the whole way home, that I had stood by him at his wedding and smiled, even though I knew Amanda would never love me, that I had done everything I knew how to do, and it was not enough. It was never enough. I still have the house. I still have Laura. I still have my health. But some days I sit in the kitchen and I fold towels and I think about the birthday party. Mom, you don't need to come. And I wonder if I could have done something different, said something different, been something different. A quieter mother, a wealthier mother, a mother who did not need anything, a mother who was just grateful to be invited to anything at all. But I am not that mother. I am the mother who said no. I am the mother who kept her house. I am the mother who chose herself for once. And that choice has a weight to it, a weight I will carry for the rest of my life. My phone rang yesterday. I did not recognize the number. I answered anyway. It was Owen, my grandson. He is 8 now. He said, "Nana, I miss you." His voice was small, tinny through the speaker. I heard Amanda in the background telling him what to say. Tell her you miss her. Tell her you want to see her. And I knew it was a performance. I knew she was using him, using his little voice, his little heart, to get to me, to open the door again, to make me soft. But I listened anyway. I listened to my grandson say he missed me. And I said, "I miss you too, sweetheart. I miss you every single day."
And then I said something I did not plan to say.
I said, "Why don't you put your mom on the phone?" There was a shuffling sound. Then Amanda came on the line. She said, "Hello? Just hello. No mom, no apology, no nothing." I said, "Amanda, I am not going to fight with you. I am not going to court again. I am not going to give you my house. But I am going to love my grandson. And if you try to stop me, I will make your life very difficult. I will tell everyone what you did. The lawyers, the letters, the guardianship hearing. I will tell Owen when he is old enough. I will tell Lily. I will tell the whole town. I am not afraid of you anymore. I am not afraid of being alone. I am already alone, so you have nothing left to take from me. Do you understand?" She did not answer. She hung up. Just like before. And I sat there, in my kitchen, with my phone in my hand. And I felt something settle in my chest. Not peace exactly. Not happiness.
still holding on, still useful, still mine. And I am not ready to let it go. Not yet. Maybe not ever.